The political air in Dublin feels unusually heavy, the kind of weight that arrives when history, exhaustion and expectations sit together in the same room. The US is taking serious steps to end the war one way or another, and our task, and I am sure that it is a common task for all of us in Europe, is to really end the war, not just to achieve a pause in hostilities. For this to truly happen, everyone must be on the side of peace. America is taking serious steps to end the war one way or another. And our task, and I am sure that it is our common task of everyone in Europe, is to really end the war and not just get a pause in the fighting. A decent peace is needed for this to really happen. Everyone must be on the side of peace. The streets outside Leinster House are cold and grey, but inside, Ukraine's president carries a message that burns hotter than anything the Irish winter can offer. Volodymyr Zelensky has come here not simply to meet another European leader, not simply to attend another round of diplomatic meetings, but to deliver a warning and a plea shaped by nearly 4 years of unbroken war. He is tired. Yes, his nation is tired. But the urgency in his voice, the tightness around his eyes, tells a different story. He is also determined, resolved to push through the political fog that has settled over Europe and the wider West. His message is direct and unmistakable. Ukraine does not want a pause, it wants an end. The cameras click as he stands beside Irish Prime Minister Micheál, and the room leans forward. For months now, the diplomatic conversation around the war has shifted across European capitals, Washington, and international institutions, from battlefield strategies to ceasefire proposals, from sanctions renewals to questions of war fatigue. Rumours of American pressure, quiet negotiating channels and shifting priorities have sharpened anxieties, not just in Kyiv, but in every democracy watching the conflict reshape the rules of global power. And now, Zelensky steps up to the microphone with the authority of a man who has seen his cities shelled, his soldiers buried, and his people displaced. He speaks not as a guest in Dublin, but as the face of a struggle the entire democratic world claims to stand behind. He begins by acknowledging something that many in the room already suspect. The United States is moving. Whether through diplomatic channels or strategic recalibrations, Washington is taking, in his words, serious steps to end the war one way or another. It is rare to hear Ukraine's president speak with such openness about American intentions. Rarer still for him to frame these intentions as something that could shape the future of his country in ways he may not fully control. Yet in this moment, he chooses clarity over caution. If the United States is preparing the ground for a political solution, however imperfect, Ukraine must not be left as a passive observer. Zelensky's voice tightens slightly as he continues, not from anger, but from a kind of moral insistence. The war, he explains, cannot simply be paused. A pause is not a peace. A pause merely freezes violence, suspends it, hides it behind paperwork and diplomatic phrasing until the next offensive begins. A pause has no justice, no guarantees, no meaning for the families who will wait only to hear the air raid sirens return. A pause may serve geopolitical strategies, but it does not serve the people living under the constant threat of missile strikes. And so he insists again that Europe's task is not to negotiate a temporary silence, but to truly end the war. The room's atmosphere shifts as he speaks. This is not a technical statement about ceasefire terms. It is a moral argument, one that challenges European leaders to confront their own political fears. For nearly a year, Europe has been divided between those who believe Ukraine must push for total restoration of its borders and those who fear the conflict could escalate beyond control if it continues indefinitely. Public opinion polls show fatigue. Elections in multiple countries reveal fractures. Questions grow louder. How long will support last? How far can sanctions stretch? How deep is the West's commitment when the costs rise and patience thins? Zelensky hears these doubts, even when they are not voiced aloud. And so here in Dublin, he chooses to confront them. He describes the war not as a regional conflict or a territorial dispute, but as a defining moment for Europe's future. If Russia is allowed to halt its aggression without consequences, he argues, then the precedent it sets will echo across the continent for decades. If the war ends in a pause, Russia will rebuild, rearm and return, and next time the cost may be even higher. The loss of life already endured, the devastation of Ukrainian infrastructure, the displacement of millions, none of these realities, he suggests, will mean anything if the war simply resumes under new conditions. Behind Zelensky, the Irish flag and the European Union banner stand side by side, symbolic reminders of the unity he is trying to preserve. Ireland, though militarily neutral, has consistently been one of the strongest humanitarian supporters of Ukraine, sending aid, accepting refugees, and taking a vocal stance on international platforms. Prime Minister Martin, standing next to Zelensky, nods as the Ukrainian president speaks, but even Ireland, like all of Europe, understands the deeper implications of the message being delivered today. The continent is at a crossroads, and Ukraine's future sits at the centre. Zelensky then turns his attention to what he calls the side of peace. Peace, in his view, is not the absence of explosions for a few months. Peace is not a document signed under duress. Peace is not a geopolitical compromise traded among capitals far from the front lines. True peace, he argues, requires alignment, moral alignment, political alignment, strategic alignment among all democratic nations. For peace to be real, everyone must be on the side of peace. In other words, no wavering, no halfway commitments, no silent acceptance of temporary fixes. He speaks of Europe as a collective force, a shared community bound not only by geography but by values. The idea that European security begins at Ukraine's borders is not a metaphor to him, it is a lived reality. The missiles launched toward Kyiv, Odessa and Kharkiv are, in his view, aimed not only at Ukrainian citizens but at the principles that underpin Europe's stability, sovereignty, democracy, and the right of a nation to choose its own path. To accept a pause is, in Zelensky's eyes, to accept the erosion of these principles. Throughout the speech, his tone oscillates between urgency and reflection. He discusses the sacrifices made by Ukrainian soldiers, civilians, volunteers, and families. He references neighborhoods destroyed by artillery, children who have grown up knowing only war, and the millions displaced across Europe. These human stories, he suggests, cannot be reduced to negotiation points. The war is not just a strategic puzzle, it is an ongoing human catastrophe. Any proposal that fails to end this catastrophe, truly end it, is, in his view, a betrayal of those who have suffered the most. He mentions that the United States, while taking steps toward closure, cannot dictate Ukraine's future alone. The final outcome must align with the country's sovereignty and its people's will. European leaders must not view Ukraine as a dependent actor, but as a partner whose survival defines the continent's destiny. If Europe wavers now, Zelensky warns, the cost of rebuilding later will be far greater than the cost of continued support today. He emphasizes the need for what he calls a decent peace. These two words, decent and peace, hold enormous weight. A decent peace implies fairness, justice, and security. It means no territorial concessions that reward aggression. It means no political frameworks that leave Ukraine vulnerable to renewed assaults. It means no negotiations that treat the invader and the invaded as equal parties. A decent peace is one that restores dignity, not merely quiet. As he speaks, the political implications ripple outward. The moment reflects not just Ukraine's desperation for stability, but also the global shift unfolding around the war. Elections in the United States, leadership changes in Europe, shifting defense priorities, and internal debates within NATO have all created a landscape in which the future of Western unity is uncertain. Zelensky recognizes this, and by addressing these concerns directly, he is trying to stabilize the narrative and prevent cracks from widening. In Dublin, his words carry a layer of symbolic resonance. Ireland, a country with its own history of conflict, understands what it means to navigate peace processes that last years, even decades. The Irish audience listening to Zelensky hears not only a foreign leader, but echoes of their own past, the delicate balance between ceasefires and peace, between temporary calm and lasting resolution. And yet Zelensky's message is distinct. Ukraine does not want generations of frozen conflict, political ambiguity, or unstable ceasefire lines. It wants a definitive end. The press room remains quiet as he continues. Not a theatrical quiet, but the type of silence that comes when the gravity of a message lands fully. Zelensky then circles back to the American element of his statement. If Washington is moving one way or another toward a conclusion, then Europe must ensure that direction aligns with principles, not pressure. The war cannot end one way or another. It must end in the right way. He frames this moment as a test of unity. Will Europe stand firm or will it settle? Will the United States prioritize global stability or will it prioritize political expediency? Will the international community treat Ukraine as a sovereign nation or as a bargaining chip? These questions hang heavily over Dublin as he speaks. Zelensky also acknowledges the internal strains within Ukraine, the emotional fatigue, the economic weight, the longing for normalcy. He does not hide these realities. Instead, he frames them as reasons why the war must end decisively, not merely halted. A pause would give Ukrainians temporary relief, but it would not allow them to rebuild or move forward. Their lives would remain suspended, their futures uncertain. He ends his message by calling for unity not in vague terms, but as a concrete requirement for meaningful peace. Peace, he reminds his audience, is a collective achievement. No single nation can impose it. No single leader can guarantee it. It demands alignment, commitment, and courage from everyone involved. As Zelensky steps back from the microphone, the room exhales. The gravity of his message lingers, a reminder that even in moments of diplomatic calm, the reality of war persists with relentless force. Outside, Dublin's streets continue in their winter monotony. But for the Ukrainian president, the path forward remains filled with uncertainty, complexity, and the hope that words spoken today might shape decisions made tomorrow. In Dublin, he did not ask for sympathy, he did not ask for slogans, he asked for resolve, he asked for unity, and above all, he asked that the world remember the difference between silence and peace. Because for Ukraine, the difference could define not only the future of the war, but the future of Europe itself.